Welcome to the Karen Kenney Show.
Hey, you guys, welcome to the Karen Kenney Show. You just kind of caught me in the middle of being a little weirdo. Oh my God. I'm a little extra punchy. I think it's because it's close to the holidays. And 2024 is starting to wind down, which is wicked exciting. This has been a strange year. Is it just me? Is it just me? While I'm talking to you, KT, like my best friend, is like sending me box of messages. So my wrist was just lit up there. Okay, and I'm back. Focus, focus. Okay, so look at this idea just kind of randomly popped into my head, and this is how things happen. You know, everybody kind of talks about like the different kinds of quote unquote gods, right? They'll be like, oh, the shower god spoke to me this morning, or when I was driving, the driving gods, or when I was walking, right? So people call them downloads or inspirations or ideas or whatever. A lot of times for me, it's first thing in the morning as I'm waking up, especially, or sometimes I get woken up in the middle of the night. Also, I get really good ideas and inspiration when I'm driving. I'm not saying it never happens in the shower, but that's not really my place. But also a lot of times when I'm out on walks. And a lot of famous writers have talked about this, that when they were trying to come up with solutions or ideas or whatever, you change your state. When you change your physical state by moving and breathing and walking and being in nature, a lot of times it like kind of opens up the creative life force. That's how I think of it. But a lot of times in those early morning hours, when you're first just starting to wake up, when you're coming out of, right, delta, when you're coming out of that deep sleep and you're kind of moving up through the different brainwave states, a lot of ideas come to me. Okay, so maybe that's true for you too. And if it is, I'd love to know and hear about it. So for those of you, I have a pretty good suspicion that everybody has probably heard this phrase before, the know, like, trust factor. But in case you haven't, let me just tell you a little bit about it, in what context it's usually used, and then kind of the flip the script, the flipsy that seems these different, that my spiritual team, my little helpers, I always talk about, like, up in my brain, up in my subconscious, I have like these little guys. I call them the little guys, the little librarians, and they're just like flipping through their Dewey Decimal System of how they put everything together. And every once in a while, more often than not, they drop me some good ideas. Okay, so this was what I was thinking about. Okay, so know, like, trust factor. If you haven't heard this before, it's usually used in relation to quote unquote marketing strategy. And know, like, trust is kind of built on this premise of building relationships with customers, getting them to know, like, and trust you so that they'll buy from you. Or you build your know, like, trust factor out in the world, and then people will start to recognize your brand and trust your brand and like you and like your personality and your values and all these things. And it's more likely to get them to do business with you. Okay. So the goal is, I looked this up and this is what it officially says. The goal is to create a connection with the audience so they are more likely to do business with the brand. So if you just look at some of your favorite brands, whether that's Apple, whether that's Nike, whether that's whatever, Tom's shoes, Hoka's for running, Stanley cups. I have no attachment to Stanley. I just like I liked the little bear with wings and the colors, but like whatever, right? People tend to have like brand loyalty because they have a know, like, trust factor with that brand. I definitely have one with Toyotas, right? Like it's all I've ever driven. I've had 4 Toyotas. Like I have a wicked big know, like, trust factor with Toyotas. Okay. So you get the gist of it. So when you think about know, like, and trusting when it comes to a business or a brand, and please stick around. If you're like, KK, I don't have a business, I'm just using this as an entry point to the deeper conversation that I want to have with you. But I want you to kind of understand where I'm coming from. So here are some of the tips that they give you for building your KLT factor, right? Your know, like, trust factor. They're like, be personal, create aspirational content, provide social proof. So think of social proof as being like transparent or sharing testimonials or results from your clients. Okay. Be consistent. like with your content, post regularly so that they see you and you can interact with people, etc. Be relevant, right? Listen to your audience, ask questions, understand their needs. Be personal. I'll just back up here. That's about talking about sharing your company's values and the approach to how you do your work. Aspirational content is about inspiring people and making them feel good. Okay. Being relevant, listen to your audience, ask questions to understand their needs. Be visible. This is when they're like being like forward facing. So make sure you put videos, interview, podcasts. So like people get to know you so that they can, see you in multiple places in multiple ways. Be generous. Share your content and promote other people. And then be accountable. Own up to mistakes and apologize. Okay. So when I'm thinking about all of these, I'm like, holy shit. Like, so the other morning, this like popped into my head. And I was like, we seem to, as human beings, because like in a way, I often will joke and say, remember when people were just people and not brands, right? So with the invention of the internet and social media, it's almost like now everybody's got a platform and a brand and everybody's got a thing where they're out in the public and they've become something, right? And I'm like, so people seem to spend a lot of time and energy and worry and fearing imposter syndrome, all this bullshit that goes with kind of being seen out in the world. And a lot of people worry about their like, trust factor with other people. Right? It's very outward focus. I'm trying to appear and present a particular way so that other people, right, will know, like, and trust me or my brand or my business or my company or whatever. And I thought to myself, why is it? And this is the spiritual part of the story, right? Like I'm laying in bed and I'm like, wouldn't our time be better served? Wouldn't it behoove us to spend a little more time worrying about the know, like, and trust factor of ourselves, like us to us? Like, wouldn't that be like a wicked good use of our time? That we had a strategy that focused on building a relationship, not just like with people out there, but building a know, like, and trust factor with ourselves. And the goal was to create a connection with our self, source, and spirit so that we are more likely to know, like, and trust ourselves. We are more likely. And when I say doing business, what I mean is we are more likely to know ourselves, to know who we really are, to know our values, to know what matters. And when we stay in alignment with those things, we are way more likely, right, to like ourselves, to start to realize, oh, we're not full of shit. And we can start to trust ourselves. So building a know, like, and trust factor, building like a strategy, which to me would include a DSP, a daily spiritual practice, right? So that we can build a relationship more deeply with our true self, with source, whether you call that God, the divine, universe, Mother Nature, I don't care what you call it, right? And then starting to trust that, starting to trust yourself, starting to trust your inner teacher or Holy Spirit or intuition or instinct, right? Starting to trust the divine, yourself and your spiritual team, your helpers, your ancestors, your, call it whatever you want to call it. Okay. I call it spiritual team. So when we go back and we look at these quote unquote tips for building KLT with others, I'm like, oh my God, this totally also applies to ourselves. So listen to this. Be personal, right? So get wicked clear on your values, on what matters to you, on who matters to you, right? Get personal with yourself and approach yourself as, like, how would I say this? The time and energy that you would invest in getting to know somebody else, why don't we slow down? Take a moment to just slow the fuck down. Take some deep breaths, get a little quiet, learn how to be in our own skin, how to be in our own company, get personal with ourselves, spend a little time with ourselves. And then the next one is like create aspirational content. Inspire people and make them feel good. I'm like, you know who I want to inspire these days? I want to inspire myself, right? Like I want to inspire myself with my own acts of whatever, with my own decisions, with my own creativity. I want to draw inspiration from myself and the divine intelligence that comes through me. Like all of us, I think, are creative in some way. You might not be specifically creative, like how my sweetie is a musician or how I'm a writer and a storyteller, or some people are dancers or whatever, but we are all creative. And how about inspiring ourselves? How about like taking some time to really put some energy into whether it's like your craft or your hobbies or the things where you make things and inspire yourself? Maybe part of it is like you're on a quest to like, you know, I don't know, go back to the gym and build some muscles in your body and to get more healthy and to improve your mental well-being or whatever it is, right? Do the things that are going to inspire you and make you feel good, right? In a positive, healthy, balanced, happy way. Right? Create some aspirational content for yourself, right? I want to, like I said, I want to be able to look at who I am being and how I am being and how I am spending my time and how I am showing up in the world and be inspired by that. Okay. And then it says provide social proof. Okay. And the way they were talking about it for a business was share testimonials and be transparent. Number one, be transparent with yourself. This is what I talk about, like own both your brilliance and your bullshit. And as far as like the sharing testimonials piece, right? This is like providing social proof for yourself, especially when things get tough. Because we're really quick to replay those old tapes, those old recordings that are in our subconscious that are telling us that we're not good enough, we're not worthy enough, we're not lovable, we're not safe, we're not fill in the blank, whatever your thing is, right? You're too much, you're too little, you're too whatever. Like the stuff that people said to us when we were younger and it got recorded and now it's like on a loop and on repeat. And we say those unkind things to ourselves sometimes. Sometimes, right, we take those random comments or those repeated comments that were made to us as children, and we kind of took them as gospel truth. And now we have to share a new testimony. We have to share some new testimonials about how that shit is not true. And we can give ourselves testimonies and proof of how far we've come, of how much we've changed, of how much we've like, done the work to be better than where we came from. And I don't mean better than like, oh, I'm superior, meaning we've just chosen better patterns, better habits, better ways of talking to ourselves, better than maybe where we came from. So that like generational trauma is not rolling downhill and continuing to roll past us. It's like it's stopping with us because we're going to stop and we're going to do the work. And we're going to be transparent about what's going on. And we're not going to just sweep shit under the rug, right? We're going to provide social proof to ourselves about who we really are, to whom we really belong, and what we're capable of. Double amen hands to that. We're going to be consistent. And this is not about posting on social media. This is about being consistent with yourself, right? The 5 Ds of DSP: daily, dedication, determination, discipline, and devotion. Taking time each day to be consistent with the things that you say really matter, right? The assignment is alignment. The assignment is alignment. Are we aligning with these things that we say matter? And if we say they matter, are we backing it up with consistent action to ourselves? That's how we're going to provide the social proof, is us being consistent with ourselves and bearing witness to the fact that we keep our word, that we have that self-integrity. Okay. Be relevant. It says, listen to your audience and ask questions to understand their needs. Be relevant to yourself. Take that quiet time and check in and ask the different parts of yourself, the younger parts of yourself. If you listen to my last episode on the younger you, this is specifically about that. Taking some time to slow down and listen to your audience, the audience of parts that lives within you, that is bearing witness to you in your daily life, and asking those parts inside of you, right? What are your needs? This is about you understanding the needs of the parts that live within you, right? So this is about you being relevant for you. So if you keep hearing the message that I need rest, I am so tired, and I'm still tired, like I need time to just be and to breathe and to slow down, like to catch up with myself. You know what I mean? And you just keep barreling on through and pushing that into the background. You are not being relevant to yourself. So this is a really important factor. Okay. Taking that time. So asking, going in, getting quiet, and asking those different parts of yourself, right? Understand their needs. Okay. Be visible. So this to me is about being visible with yourself, is allowing yourself to know. It's not so much about doing video interviews and podcasts and hangouts and all that stuff, but be visible in your own life, right? But also be visible in the lives of the people that you say matter to you, whether that's your family or your friends or your besties or your children or your clients, whoever it is that you serve and help and want to have a deeper, genuine, true, intimate. And by intimate, I don't mean sex. I mean like being able to share your feelings back and forth, to be understood, to be heard and all that stuff. Be visible in your own life, right? Be visible in your own life. Speak up, vote your conscience, use your voice, raise your hand, right? Be visible to yourself, but also be visible to the people who you have relationships with, because that's how they're going to know, like, and trust you personally, on a personal level. I'm not talking about business, right? On a personal level, is you got to get face to face once in a while. Get off the devices, get off the screens, and when possible, see each other in person. I know it's not always possible. Sometimes people you love live far away. Hop on a Zoom, hop on a FaceTime, whatever it is. Get it so that you can see each other's eyes, see each other's body language, read each other's energy, right? Be visible in your life, in the places that matter to you, in the relationships that matter to you. Be generous. Look, a lot of times when we think about being generous, we often almost automatically, the ego slides it into like money. This isn't about being generous with your money. There's lots of ways to be generous. You can be generous with your time. You can be generous with your energy. You can be generous with your resources. You can be generous with your attention. All right. So yeah, definitely. You can still be generous by like they're calling it promote other people, right? But this is like referrals. These are things you can do in your day-to-day life. If you go and have an amazing experience at somebody's yoga class, shout it out. If you're in the nest or something like that, a group, right? A group program where you really love the teacher or you really love the community, shout it out. Let people know. If you go to you have an experience somewhere, you listen to a podcast, you go to an event, a restaurant, whatever it is, and the people there go above and beyond and you really feel like you got something from it, like, yeah, shout it out. Be generous with your words. Be generous with your referral if you truly can stand by that referral. But also be generous with yourself. Be more kind and compassionate, right? Be more kind and compassionate and tender and gentle and merciful. Be more generous with yourself. Give yourself more time. Give yourself more time to grieve. Give yourself more time to heal. Give yourself more time to simply be, to slow down so you can check in with yourself and notice what you notice when you slow down. Because when you slow down, you might discover that you don't like slowing down, because then you might feel some feelings. There's a reason why some people stay wicked busy all the time. There's a reason why people stay in the role of caretaker all the time and doing for others all the time. Because if you constantly got a project or somebody else you got to take care of, right? You don't have to look at your own stuff, and you get to do it and get pat on the head for being such a good girl or a good boy or a good person or whatever it is, because you're just such a giver. Well, sometimes you have to give back to yourself, because if you've got nothing in the tank, if you've got nothing within you, and, it really not only will affect your quality of life and your quality of attention and intention, your ability to do the things that you're here to do, to show up the way that you would like to show up, to be who you were created to be, you got to be generous towards yourself as well. Okay. And the last one that they said was be accountable. Right? Be accountable, own up to mistakes and apologize. I think across the board that applies also for your personal life. Be accountable, but also be self-accountable. If you say you're going to be somewhere, be there. If you make a plan with yourself to go to the gym, go to the gym. If you make a plan with yourself to do your DSP or to do your morning ritual or whatever it is, or to do your gratitude list at night, or you decide that you're going to get up each day and you're going to spend 20 minutes to an hour finally working on that book or writing the book or learning something or whatever it is. Be accountable to yourself. Keep your own word to yourself. Building a personal know, like, trust factor is so key. And I can't believe I've never heard anybody talk about this way before. So, and if maybe they have, I don't know. I'm not aware of it, but that's like 2025. That's a pretty good goal. That's a pretty good idea to kind of keep in mind, that you want to build the KLT factor, you with you. Because when you start to do this and you start, right, to really pay attention to your needs and you start to really show up and living in your values and you're living in alignment, right? The assignment is alignment, and you're doing your daily DSP and you're starting to get your mind right and you're starting to shift your mind from fear to love. You start to do this, you start to know, like, and trust yourself more. It will naturally ripple out into the rest of the world. And this will start to create, you know, those 8 C's of the true self. Remember when I talked about those, like that calm and that clarity and that compassion and that creativity, that confidence, that courage, like all those things, right? Being able to come into the true self when you spend some time knowing who you truly are, that you're one of God's kids, that you're an extension of the divine, that you are the light of the world, whatever you want to call it. When you start to know this about yourself, when you get personal, when you start to create aspiration and inspire yourself, when you start to give yourself testimony, you start to give yourself proof that you are trustworthy, when you start to show up and be consistent for yourself and you're relevant and you're listening to your own needs and you're understanding them and you're being visible in your life and you're keeping your word and you're showing up and you're being generous and you're holding yourself accountable, you do all this stuff, I'm telling you, you're going to have a way better 2025. You're going to have a way better year. But you don't have to wait until January to start this. You can start doing this right now. So I highly encourage you to think about this and see how it lands for you. And, you know, I always say, like, you know, take what is helpful and leave the rest. Take what is helpful and leave the rest. My whole thing with this show is I'm just trying to spread a little more love in the world. I'm just trying to help people, right? I'm going to do little hearts. I'm just trying to spread a little more love in the world, and to share some tools or some ideas, some spiritual principles, some stories that I have found helpful for myself. And this is something that I've been thinking about for like the last week. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to share this. I'm going to talk about this. So I hope it landed for you in some way. I hope maybe some of these feel applicable. And if it did, I would always love to hear it. I also want to give a shout out of thank you to, you know, some of you have been using the tip jar, and it's so kind of you. And I do not take your generosity and your intention, your kindness for granted. So thank you so much. You know who you are. I don't want to do like shout outs and stuff of people names because they might want to be anonymous, but just know that I see you and I appreciate you. And I love that you are sending some of that energy, that love energy back to me. I appreciate it so much. If you spent some time with me, if you got to the end of this episode, thank you so much for listening. Whether you're a loyal listener or new to the show, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. And you might be listening to this on Thanksgiving 2024. And if you are, I hope you're having a compassionate Thanksgiving. I call it Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving. I try to let all the beings and all the creatures live as a vegan. I don't kill anything. 45 million turkeys are killed just for this. And I just think, like, what we have a holiday that's built on giving thanks and being grateful, and we do it by slaughtering 45 million innocent birds. I just don't get it. And turkeys are so gentle. Turkeys are so smart, and they're so kind, and they love hugs, and they remember faces, and they have personalities, and they have relationships, and they want to live. They want to live, and they're just innocent little beings. And so happy Thanksgiving. And I hope you also do give thanks for any abundance, any goodness, any joy, any love that you have in your life. I'm grateful for each of you, for everybody who listens to this show, for anybody who shares this show, for anybody who leaves a comment or lets me know, or tips or whatever. I appreciate you so much. So episode 290, we're on our way to 300. That's wicked exciting. So just thank you so much for being a part of the Karen Kenney Show family and community. I appreciate you so much. Okay, wherever you go out there, right? Leave yourself and the animals and the turkeys and the people in the place and the environment better than how you found it. Wherever you go, may you and your love be a blessing. Bye.